Okay, good job, Jackie. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. My name is Yako Shotuku. I am a professional learning specialist with the Harmony SEL program. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I also have with me my team member, Laurel Phillips, who is the account manager of this whole partnership. She put this all together partnered with National Association of Principals. I know I probably didn't say that right. But we are so thrilled that you are with us today. I just want you to know, just in case this is your first time with us, that this second year actually of our partnership with the Principals Association. Last year we worked on Harmony. This year we worked on our adult social emotional learning program, which is Inspire. Inspire is free, just like Harmony. And it works on educators, leaders, building their capacity for either in the pedagogy or with adult SEL. And so this whole series has been best practices and sharing of resources for leaders, principals and assistant principals and everyone that's working in the school to help us to share our best practices, what we're doing in our schools, and being able to help each other. So these are some of the topics that we have gone over throughout the course of this year that hopefully you will have access to, that you can see in recording. And so without any further ado, I am going to share this is our Spotlight in the Field series, and I'm happy to introduce Jamie Selfridge. She is a principal at Caribou High School. So I'm going to pass it right along. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it along to you, Jamie. So happy to have you. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jaco. I am thrilled to be here with you guys today. I think this program is a wonderful addition to our toolbox of resources that we can utilize. And I was thrilled to be able to meet with you today just to kind of share a concept or an idea that I have been kind of working through over the last couple of years. So I as well, I'm going to share my screen so we can take a look. There we go. So what I'm here to kind of talk about today is just defining our role in education and what that means for our capacity. We often talk about the whole, better work-life balance, but that's a pretty loaded statement. And sometimes when we think about how we can manage that work and life balance, we sometimes kind of feel like we fall short because we're not living up to the work balance or the life balance or something in between. So I just wanted to kind of come and talk to you today about just some strategies and ideas that I've kind of wrestled with, as well as some boundaries that I've been able to put in place for my own life that's helped me find a bit of a better balance between those two ideas. So just a little bit about me. I'm the principal at Caribou High School, like she said. I've been in education for 16 years, where I taught for 10, and for the remaining 6, I've been in administration. I have kind of an eclectic background. I started actually in psychology. I was going and pursuing a psychology degree. I finished that, had full intentions of being a psychologist. And then, boop, I veered off into education. And since then, I got my teaching degree. I went and did my master's in leadership. So my path kind of took me in a little bit of a different direction. But why I love Harmony and Inspire is because it really just hones in on my psychology background, which I just love to use on a daily basis. So this is a really good compliment for me. So what we're going to talk about today first is just, what roles do you play? So when you think about your day, what do you think about? Are you a mom? Are you a wife? Are you a daughter? Are you a friend? Are you an administrator? So those are just some of the roles that I play every day, and some are bigger than others on any given day. So for those of you who are with me, just so I can get a better understanding of who I'm talking with today, I'd love for you to just drop in the chat 1, 2, 3 roles that you identify with on a daily basis that helps define what you do in your profession and in your life. So throw them out there. Let's see what we have. Who are we working with today? And so I see we've got a principal, a wife, and a mom. That seems to be a pretty common thread. Association leader, mom, daughter, awesome. Director of equity, mom, wife, perfect. School psychologist, hey, there's my friend, clinician, mother, board member, awesome. Principal, perfect. Wife, executive director, grandmother, awesome. So these are all roles that we play on a daily basis. Aunt, sister, account executive, exactly. And so when we think about those roles, we automatically come to this concept of, how do we balance work and life? Because when you look at those roles, some of them are more family-based and some of them are more professionally based. And so how do we go about making that balance and making that commitment? And oftentimes when we look at your role, we will notice that they kind of fall into 5 typical bubbles for most people. Some of the bubbles change up a little bit, but there's typically some aspect of family, there's some aspect of faith, there's some aspect of hobby or friends or activities, and then you've got your health, your well-being, and then there's usually some type of spiritual faith, something that kind of grounds you in that capacity. So more often than not, most of our roles can fit into 5 general bubbles. And what people often think, and this is something that started to bog me down in my balance, was I felt like I had to prioritize certain ones all the time at the top. So right here, you see, my family, my work, my faith. So those are kind of always bubbling near the top, but it's not possible to always keep everything at the top. And what I've learned over the years is that list is fluid. And at any given moment, it's going to adjust for you. So if you want to put your family first all the time, I think that's a really strong and amazing value. But there's going to be times at work that you have to work late or you have to do something and your family has to take a little bit of a back seat. And we all know that if we don't take care of our health, that at any given point, that's going to jump to the forefront if we don't take care of it. So it's really important to look at these bigger bubbles, these categories, as fluid, and know that at any given moment, one is going to bump out the other, and that's okay. Because I read a couple years ago the idea of this. So the key to life's juggling act is to remember that it's okay to drop the rubber balls and not the crystal ones. And what that means is within those 5 categories that kind of round out your life, there's all kinds of little balls. And we know as well as anybody in a busy professional's life, there's not just 5, there's 55 in a day. You're juggling that meeting after school. You're judging, your daughter's soccer practice. You're juggling getting home for supper. You're juggling meeting your mom for dinner. You're juggling all of those things. And it's important to remember that this juggling act can happen, but we've got to make sure that we take care of the crystal balls. It's going to be fine when a couple rubber balls fall down. So for example, if I miss my daughter's 3rd soccer game of the season, that's probably okay. It's probably a rubber ball. I'll explain it to her. I'll mention it to her. She knows mom's not going to show up, and that's okay. Missing that huge board meeting on the budget where you have to be a part to do a presentation, that's probably not going to bounce back so great. That might be a crystal ball that you need to take care of. And it's okay to find balance in all of those different pieces in your life. One of the statements that I always struggled with was family first. And I think even as a principal, I'm guilty of saying this to my own staff. I'm like, it's okay, family first, family first, family first. But just because you put some of those other roles first doesn't necessarily mean you're doing something wrong. You're just juggling all of those little balls. And so for me, when I was doing this reflection on how do I manage all of these different components, I kind of set on these boundaries. So these are just some boundaries that I kind of came up with for myself to help with that balance. Some of them are more serious. Some of them are, kind of humorous. So the first one I did was my immediate access. So when I'm looking at my office and my home life, it was really challenging for my family for me to be bringing work home a lot. So after my first year in administration, I removed email notifications on my phone and I didn't engage in work at home unless I actively went to it. Because what I was finding, that ding on that phone was all encompassing. So I'd be sitting there enjoying my family and ding, an email would come in and you see part of it. And whether it's good, bad, or otherwise, it distracts you from what you're doing. So I made a commitment after my first year in administration. You know what? I'm not going to have those notifications. I'll still check it, but it's on my terms. It's on my schedule. It's on my pace. It wasn't interfering with my family time. I could check it when I wanted to. This one, my husband laughs at, my spotless home. So before becoming a principal, I was one of those people who I had to have my carpet lines. I had to have all my corners dust free. And at the end of the day, as a principal who works, 12 hours a day, it's just an unrealistic expectation that my home is going to be spotless at any given moment. And now I have a commitment to balance activities. So it's okay to play Monopoly with my daughter on the weekends. And it's okay if the floors don't get done this weekend. You know what? I'll get it in a couple of days. It's totally fine. So I've let go of having that, perfectly spotless home. Not going to lie, we've also thrown around the idea of like, hey, maybe we can work on getting a cleaning service in here as well to help with that. But at the same time, you have to recognize that if you're working 12 and 13-hour days, something else is going to have to give. You cannot, be proficient in all of those areas all of the time. The other one was everything homemade. I grew up in a family where my mom made everything. Like store-bought was just not an option. Prepackaged was being lazy, and having those convenient pieces, it was just like, absolutely not. We are going to home make and it's going to be great. I've had to let that go. I've had to let that upbringing kind of pass on because I just don't necessarily have the time. I've chosen a profession that requires a lot of my time, and I absolutely adore my profession, but I have to recognize that it's not always going to be perfect in that sense. And the last one has come about more in the last few years. As you guys all know, social media is a real thing. It's right in front of our faces. It's all the time. And I found myself feeling guilty about the pictures I was seeing on the highlight reel on social media. And so, I would see my friends taking these trips with their kids. I would see all these fun things happening on the weekends, these amazing experiences. And I started to kind of question, well, am I not doing my part with my family? Should I be doing more? But we have to realize that social media is exactly that. It's a highlight reel, and it doesn't represent the day-to-day reality that we go through. Nobody posts on there that they had 4 meetings and, a parent walk in and this and that. And we don't post the real stuff. We just kind of post the highlights. So I give myself permission to recognize that, what's online isn't always real life. And then things that I am hanging on to. So obviously boundaries involve giving things up, but things that I am hanging on to when I'm setting boundaries as well. And the first one is simply communication. So with family and with work, it's important to talk about what balls we are juggling and why they are important in the moment. If we are open to feedback about our priorities when they get misaligned, I think that goes a long way. And my family has been super supportive in my career, and I've been able to be successful because of that. But it all starts with communication. That's communication with my husband, that's communication with my daughter, that's communication with my parents, to make sure that they understand why I'm putting certain balls first and when that is necessary. And then another thing that I'm hanging on to is the ability to say no. So I work hard to commit to what's important, and not having to worry about always saying yes. If it doesn't align with your priorities and you aren't committed to being there 100%, it's okay to say no to preserve some of those boundaries that you're setting with your family, with your friends, with your health, and all of those pieces. And then finally, one of the biggest things is forgiveness, and that's giving and accepting grace. Nobody is perfect. We will all drop a ball at some point. And some of them may be crystal and some of them may be rubber, and that's okay. But I've learned that it's going to happen. And the more we can sweep it up, move on, realign our priorities, recover from it, and grow from it, I think the stronger that we end up being as individuals. So those are three things that I'm kind of hanging on to. And before we move on to the last piece, what I would like you to do at this point is throw out in the chat just something that you have set as a boundary, because I love to hear what other people are doing to set boundaries, because in reality, most of my boundaries have come from someone else saying, hey, this is what I did as a boundary. So I would love for you to throw in the chat a boundary that you've set for yourself to help keeping everything in check.
Can I say mine out loud?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say that I love African dance class, right? That's what I love to do. That is what where I see friends. That's where we check in on each other. That's where we get that kind of physical health, but also the kind of mental caring health in checking in on other people. And so I would say that for me, my boundary for that is what brings me joy. That is what makes me really happy. And so there's very little that I will let intersect on that, if that makes any sense. So you want to do something, or, I've got class, I can either do it before or I can either do it after, because African dance class really settles me, and the physical movement, of course, has benefits, you know what I mean? And so that is what, for me, that is a boundary that I set. The thing that brings me incredible joy, I let very little intersect with it or make me miss it. So that's mine.
That's awesome. And I'm seeing in the list, other people are not checking emails when you're done for the workday and not working on weekends. And that warms my heart to no end, because I feel in the education profession, every year that goes by, we are more and more accessible. We are expected to be more and more accessible. And the more we kind of give into that boundary, like, it's okay for you to contact me when I'm with my family. It's okay for you to interrupt my weekend. It's okay for me to answer an email after supper. The more we give permission to that, the more people are going to creep into our space. And that's not okay. So I love to see when others are just saying, you know what? No, it's not okay to creep into a different bubble. My workday is done. Nothing is so important that it can't wait till the next day. Now, we obviously know there's going to be examples of emergency, and we deal with those on a regular basis. But as a general rule, protect that bubble, protect that time that you have with your family, with your friends. When you've stepped into a different sphere, I encourage you to protect that. And I see examples of movement and sleep and blocking unwanted calls, texts overnight, 100%. I mean, I'm still guilty of using my phone as my alarm clock. And I really probably need to figure out a better way, but just not allowing people to get into your space, not allowing that email to come through, not allowing that phone call to go off, protecting that personal space, and still check it on your own time. You get to be the determiner of when those things come in. And it feels so good. Like, my staff, I tell them that, guys, I'm probably not going to answer your email over the weekend. If it's an emergency, call me. But if you send me an email, don't expect an answer tonight. You'll get it tomorrow. Don't expect it over the weekend. You'll get it later. And they respect that. What they don't know is I'm still kind of checking it and monitoring it and making sure everything's going okay, but I'm not responding because I'm allowing myself to choose what comes in and what doesn't come in. So it sounds like you guys have some great boundaries already set, which is really great. And the last thing I'm going to share, and this is why I was ecstatic to come in and chat with you guys today and get some ideas from you, is because finding your people has been kind of my saving grace with education. Being able to develop a team within your organization, whether you're in an educational institution or not, but developing a team within your organization to create a space to share those ideas. So when you are struggling with boundaries, being able to go to a group and saying, look, I'm not doing this very well. What is your suggestion? How can I do this better? Do you have a boundary that you set that helps you with this? And it helps hold each other accountable. And then connecting on a larger level. So NASSP, NAESP, they are wonderful organizations to help you connect on a national level. And in every state, we have our state and local levels that we can also connect at. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to connect with other educators, other principals, other administrators, so that we can band together and support each other, whether we're supporting each other digitally on Zoom meetings like this, or whether we're in person. It's just amazing to connect and to collaborate with each other. And with that being said, I say, if you need some people, my contact information is here. I connect with people all across the US. I'm very active in my state and my national organizations. So my contact information is there. You can certainly snap it. I can put it in the chat. But by all means, if you need people, if you need someone to share boundary ideas, if you need someone to share any ideas, certainly connect with me, get connected with your local organizations who provide resources like this, so that you can, in fact, have people to back you and be in your corner when it comes to things like this. For me, when I was first asked to present and talk to you guys today, the reason was because we were kind of sharing about how I got to Caribou High School. And so last year, at the end of the year, I was really struggling because I was not feeling like I was around my people, and I wasn't feeling effective anymore. And I didn't feel like I had that balance. And so ultimately, even when I put all those boundaries in place, sometimes it's okay to actually make a big decision and to move. And for me, I ended up moving from my district that I had been in for 15 years to a neighboring district. And it was just the right timing for me. It was the right move for me. And I had to give myself permission to do that. I had to say, it's okay to leave a district you've been in for 15 years and move on to another place, because I needed a better headspace. I needed a different group. I needed different people. And that change for me has been a huge blessing. I now have an assistant principal who, he knows why I'm here tonight, but he's in his office and he'll pop in and he'll say, Jamie, it's 5:00. You don't have a meeting. You need to go home. Or he'll say, oh, Jamie, I can't go to my kid's soccer game because of X, Y, and Z here at school. And we both look at each other and we go, nope, you're going home. Nope, you're going to that soccer game, because we protect each other's family boundaries, because we really are a strong team. So I encourage you to try and find those people. If you're looking for people, let me be a part of your group. I would be happy to support you in any way to help protect that boundary in that balance. In making it work, because ultimately we need to protect each other to continue with this profession. We need people in our corner. So with that, I will turn it back over to Jaco. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity just to share some of the tidbits that I've kind of learned along the way. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you tonight and hearing more of what you guys have to share as well.
That was so good, Jamie. Thank you so much. I so connect with that. I call, when you say find your people, I call it who's your crew. That's what I say. When people are talking, I was like, well, who's your crew? Who's the person that you go to just to vent? And then who's the person that is going to support you no matter what? I think it's so wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you've shared. And you got some great thank yous and in the chat. I hope you've been monitoring. Well, I am going to close everybody with just 3 slides, and it kind of piggybacks off of what Jamie talked about today. This has been, let me get my slide together. Hold on a minute. I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up on my screen, and let me get it together. Okay, I'm going to end everyone with something that I think is super, 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 super important for all of us, for all leaders. I can't think of a better thing to end our this phase of our partnership with NAESP, and that is forgiveness. It's something that you talked about, Jamie, in your section, and I just think it's so important. And so I only have about 3 or 4 slides. You may get some time back, or we'll close with Laurel if you have anything else to say, and we'll close with Jackie. But my 3 slides have to do with forgiveness. And so if you would help me, I don't know if you've got your chat fingers ready or not. I am going to actually go to if I can get to my annotation screen. Let's see if I can get to it. My whiteboard annotation screen. Let's see if I can get to it. What I'd like you to tell me is, when you think of forgiveness, I'd like you to tell me one reason, and I have named 5 reasons, but because that's going to be my next screen. But I'd like you to tell me, if I can get to my annotation screen, what is one reason that forgiveness makes you a better leader? If you can tell me that. I'd like you to type it on the screen, but it looks like my annotation screen is not working so well. So go ahead and put it in the chat. How can forgiveness make you a better leader? And you can put it on the screen, or you can come off chat and tell us. I will give you a minute because you might be typing a bit. Let's see if anyone's typed. Let's see. Oh, a lot is coming in. It makes you a better person. You aren't holding. Oh, great. Awesome. Gosh, somebody got to their annotation screen. Fantastic. You can move forward, says Laurel. It allows you to be reflective and think about when you may have made the same mistake. Tara, we are simpatico. And then if you check your screen, somebody got to their annotation screen and put it there. Awesome. Some techie person. Help build a culture of risk-taking. Absolutely. Provides the ability to model what you hope to see in others. Reflection, peace, and progress. I love it. I love it. You guys, we are all simpatico on this. There's just a couple of things. If anybody else want to share, you may have 2 things you want to share on forgiveness and how that intersects with being a better leader. Yeah. Allows people to feel safe. Absolutely. Provides the ability to model. Oh, no, said that one. Right. You may have made the same mistake. Awesome. So when you think about forgiveness, there are, and I need to close the annotation screen here. Actually, if you can remove it from that screen, let me see if I can clear it. My annotation screen came up and then it disappeared. Technology is so awesome when it's working well. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much. So there's just 5 things I want to highlight for you that with this group, you may already know. But I just want to highlight, put a couple things in your hearing to consider if you think about forgiveness. Number 1, it affects your climate. And some of you all talked about that. So your climate, your space, it helps to foster engagement, right? If I know that I've made a mistake with you, or someone else has made a mistake with me, knowing that forgiveness is priority among leadership helps me to come to you faster, right? Instead of holding it or thinking about it, or I'm hesitating to come to you about something. If I know that forgiveness is a part of your leadership style, I can come to you quicker, yeah? Or I know that you may come to me to settle it, to have peace, right? Somebody wrote about having peace. It also promotes the flexibility, right? So again, it allows, I call the flexibility the pivot, right? Everyday educators are pivoting, right? I was going to say this, now I have to say this. This happened, so now I have to pivot into a different pathway. It helps your pivot. Yeah, it helps your pivot in relationships with other people. It helps your pivot in what your plan or course of action is going to be, right? If there's a area or a understanding of forgiveness. It also promotes workplace freedom, right? I now feel more free to take risks in my workspace. Yeah. And it allows your staff to feel, well, I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't go well, I live to see another day, right? But there may be staff members of yours who are kind of hesitant, or they may be sitting on that great, fantastic idea, but they're not sure. Right? A staff member may be sitting on an idea that will rocket your school into orbit. But if they're not sure, if they're, I don't know, or maybe they're dealing with some other issues of sharing or self-esteem, having a climate of forgiveness can help. The next area is that I can't see very well because my computer is messed up. Resetting. I will tell you, as a Harmony staff, we reset a lot. We have different pathways that we're following, and then we change, and then we have to all get our minds into what the change of the vision is, or just getting used to change. Remember that book everybody used to read about change? Who moved my cheese, or you moved the cheese, or something like that. It was about change, right? Having a climate of forgiveness allows you to be able to reset what you were thinking, how you were thinking about a particular concept, or how you were thinking about the implementation of SEL in your building, right? Maybe you have to reset your own mind. Some of this is not always in a group. Sometimes it's just you and your own thinking about a particular thing that you have to reset. But having colleagues and having leadership that has tongue-tied today, that has a spirit of forgiveness allows me to really be free to reset. Does that make sense? The middle one that I can't see, can somebody read for me what that is? I can't see that green one. Put it in the chat for me, because the middle of my computer is all messed up. Can somebody tell me what that middle one is? I think
that's
number
a tone
3.
For parents and partners.
Yes. So I don't know if you want to admit this or not. Every school has a reputation. It does. Every school has a reputation. I live in New York City. There are PS, whatevers, and PS 332s, and every school here has a reputation for certain things. Of course, every school wants to have a reputation for high academic skills and high test scores, but they have reputations for other things as well. And if we are completely honest, some schools have a reputation for being exclusionary. You're right. So we don't want those kids here. They cause a lot of trouble and they're going to mess up our test scores. We don't want these particular parents in here because they're troublemakers, and we have a nice thing going on here. We don't want any disruptors. Other schools have a reputation for teamwork. Other schools have reputations for working together. Other schools. So I want you to think about your reputation, right? And your reputation will attract partners who will want to work with you because this is the school that ... Does that make sense, everyone? And so if you are a school that actively practices forgiveness, think of all of the people that will want to work with you, all of the partners that hear about that school that is so forgiving and practices, and the children feel comfortable, and the staff, want to work there, and oh, it's hard to get in. I'm a new teacher. I heard about that school that practices forgiveness. I want to get in, right? And so I just want you to think about the fact that your reputation, it matters. It matters as an individual. It matters as a staff. It matters as a school. And if you want to attract people, this is like the law of reciprocity, right? The law of attraction says if you've got a great thing going, you will attract partners who want to work with you. Does that make sense? Next is talent acquisition. Think about 1, 2, and 3. If you've got 1, 2, and 3 going for you, you will attract teachers. You will attract school counselors. You will attract talent that wants to be in your school, right? They're breaking down the doors. Listen, we don't have any positions right now because nobody wants to leave, because this is a place that fosters forgiveness. We think higher of each other at this school, right? We give each other the benefit of the doubt. Even if I had a little bit of a disagreement with you, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt because I know that you are here for the children. Does that make sense? And so you will attract the best. Right? You are fostering a climate of giving each other the benefit of the doubt and thinking higher of each other. You will seek, and people will knock down your doors trying to get in. Does that make sense? Right? Who you hire matters, what they think matters, and you want to set a tone for this is the place where you could take risks, where there's freedom within the confines and structures. I don't even call it a confinement, but there is a freedom here because I'm going to try, but everyone else is for me. Does that make sense, everybody? And then the very last thing I want you to think about in terms of a school and leadership that fosters forgiveness is your integrity. There is a personal integrity, and then there is a group integrity, right? So if leaders prioritize SEL, right? But would you believe that there are still schools that do not prioritize social emotional learning and development of their students and of their staff? Yeah, it's true. If you are prioritizing social emotional learning, and you are prioritizing and you can call it whatever you want, a spirit, a climate, an energy, a feel, whatever you call it. If forgiveness permeates the hallways, if forgiveness permeates decision making, and it comes from the top, then you've got a spirit that is going to foster growth. Everyone, as you get older, as we all get older in our careers, growth becomes important to us, right? Going to a place where we can still be dynamic and not static, going to a place where we can still reach and grow and still have dreams, that promotes the integrity of the place. Yeah, the spirit, the energy of the place. Have you been in schools where the energy was kind of off, where you weren't quite sure what's going on here? It kind of, no one's saying anything, but there's a feel of the place, right? Forgiveness is going to allow you to build the integrity of the people, of the students, because we're models and they're watching us, and the integrity of the place itself. Does that make sense, everyone? So those are 5 things I want to leave you with, and this is one more I want to leave you with. Dr. Shauna Duperson, have you ever heard of her? She created the Project Forgive, and she is an expert, if you will, on forgiveness. And this was such a great quote. I wanted to leave it with you. Forgiveness is accepting the apology you'll never receive. Isn't that deep? Yeah. Forgiveness is accepting the apology you'll never receive. In order to be able to do that, you have to be in a particular place in your social emotional development. We are not all there. If we're totally honest with you, some are working towards, some, if we're honest, they're meh about it. They don't really care whether they get to it or not. But, I'm thinking about Maslow and that area of actualization, right? I mean, I feel like this quote is at the top, right? Being in a particular place where you can receive it even though you never received it. That's a particular place you have to be with thinking about people and believing about other human beings. So what I'd like you to do in this last 3 minutes is I've given some quotes on forgiveness. And I'd like you to tell me the ones that you're going to take with you. I'll give you a couple minutes to read them. Which one are you going to take with you about forgiveness and apply it in your space? And feel free to come off mute or put it in the chat. Which one are you taking with you?
I love the one by Maya Angelou. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself to forgive. Forgive everybody.
That
was mine, Laurel.
Remembering to forgive ourselves is so important. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to leave.
Absolutely. And I love that one so much also is that she could have really, her quote really could have been, forgive everybody. Couldn't it have been? It's like, forgive everybody. Don't think about it. Don't reason with it. Forgive. Just forgive everybody. But I love that whole quote. Anybody else want to come off mute? And Jessica says, yeah, go ahead.
I like the Bruce Lee quote, mistakes are always forgivable if one has the courage to admit them.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. So that's what you're taking with you. Jessica says the one by Gandhi is really powerful for her. Anybody else want to share which card of forgiveness?
I really love the
with
forgiveness
them?
in the middle, accepting the apology that you'll never receive. As an administrator, there's so many times where you get wronged or people feel that you've wronged them, but the only thing you can do is at the end of every day, know that you've done everything you can, stay tight in your integrity and walk on, because there's going to be times where you're never going to get that apology, and it's only going to drag you down to dwell on that and worry about that. So the one in the middle really resonates with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. As school leaders, you're always kind of having this little bit of a second guess. Is he trying to undermine me? Are they trying to there are all kinds of things you may be thinking about people, but in the end, you have to get to an end with that, right? You can't let it linger on in your head. Yeah. And so I agree with you, Jamie. Anyone else want to share what part of forgiveness, which forgiveness card they are going to take with them?
I like the forgiveness is above all a personal choice, a decision of the heart to go against natural instinct to pay back evil with evil. It sort of brings back, okay, God, this is your revenge. It's hard sometimes, but as the leaders, then, we've got to model for other people, and that's hard. And I think that's where the teamwork that Jamie was talking about, who's there for us? Who do we go to that you have those conversations? Because as leaders, you're not alone. But, when I was going into my first principalship years ago, my administrator said it's the loneliest place you'll be, because your relationships change. And so you have to make sure you have those cohorts, available to you, and that networking piece.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Kathleen. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share as we wrap up? Any card that really stands out to you, the one that you're going to take with you? Great. So we are going to wrap up. I am going to actually give, as this is our last session for a year's worth of session time is going by. So I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to partner. I'm sure this is what Laurel is going to say too. Let me put, I have such a sensitive keypad. Let me put Laurel's information back up. And Laurel, I'm going to pass it to you to just kind of close us out, and then we'll close with Jackie if you have anything else to say.
Would just like to thank a couple of people actually that were part of the planning for this session of this cohort. This is SEL Leadership Cohort. Thank you so much, Jamie, for your presentation this evening, and Lorena, thank you for your help in planning these sessions for the group as well. And just really want to take this opportunity to thank you all for being participants this afternoon and throughout our sessions, and our partnership with NAESP we value so much. And just want to again remind you that you have support in our Harmony SEL and Inspire resources that are free to you to use with your staff. So do feel free to create your free accounts and see what works for you, and contact us for any other information. And don't forget to give yourself that grace. Keep yourself a priority.
Well said, Laurel. Thank you. We are so grateful for the partnership and the resources, and we hope to see you at the next go round. Thank you.
Thank you all.